Today we're going to talk about writing a speech introduction that hooks your audience. Remember this, when you start your speech, that is the most important part of your speech. That's where they're going to decide as an audience if they're going to listen to you or tune you completely out. Before we start, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel for ongoing tips that are going to help you to become twice the speaker that you are today. Remember the 7-5-7 rule. You have 7 seconds to impact your audience, to make an impression on them. You have 5 minutes about at the beginning of your speech, if it's a longer speech, to really get them engaged with your content. And by the 7th minute of your keynote or presentation, they've already decided whether they're going to continue listening or tune out completely. So remember these 5 tips when it comes to starting your speech. Tip number 1 is your first words matter. I don't know if it's because speakers get nervous and they just want to say things like, "Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited." And all these things that they say to kind of, calm nerves. But make sure the very first words that come out of your mouth are meant to get your audience to think, "Tell me more." You want them to be engaged, like I said, within the first 7 seconds of your speech. So that may mean starting with a quote that's really going to get their attention, getting right into your story, or a statistic or a jarring statement that's going to get them right off the bat. So remember that. Tip number 1, your very first words. The first words that come out of your mouth matter immensely. Tip number 2 to your intro, make sure you tell your audience why the topic matters to you. You want to have some background to let them know, hey, I'm not just speaking about this topic. This is something that matters to me, and it matters to me the advice that I'm going to give to you. It's important for me to help you with the content of my speech. So why is it important to you? So make sure you have your why in your introduction. Tip number 3, I call these hook tips, tips to hook your audience. You want to make sure you give them a reason why the topic and subject matter and problem that you're going to solve matters to them. You see, it's one thing to talk about a topic like leadership or whatever it is that you speak on, but it's another thing to make sure the audience knows that it's important to listen to your content. So you may want to bring in statistics, or you may want to bring in some type of proof or some type of quote or something that gets them to really pay attention. For example, I have a youth talk that talks about resilience. And when I present it to youth, I say, listen, resilience is important. And you have to go through things to build resilience. That's the point of my speech. You actually have to go through tough things in life to build resilience. And I bring up a study from Harvard that showed that manageable stress in our lives makes us more resilient. So I pop that stat into my introduction to make sure that people know, hey, listen, there's actual research that backs up what this guy's going to talk about. So make sure you have some kind of proof of the truth that you're going to be sharing with your audience, and let them know, hey, this is a topic that's important to them and why it matters to them. Before we go on, let me know below by just commenting, and let me know, how do you start your speech? What speech introductions have you seen that are very effective, and what works for you? Hook tip number 4 is tell them what you're going to tell them. You may have heard that as far as speaking goes, you have to tell them what you're going to tell them, but here's how you do it. In your introduction, just lay out what they're going to get by the end of the speech. Make sure that you make a big promise to them and you let them know, hey, there's going to be 3 tips here that are going to help you become, the best leader you can possibly be, or whatever that roadmap is for your audience. Make sure you kind of give them an idea of what they're going to get by the end of your presentation. And hook tip number 5 is to tease into your first point. Instead of just finishing your introduction and then saying, well, I'm going to go through my 5 points now, you might say something like, this first point to becoming a stronger leader, I learned a long time ago from a person that was very important to me, and this key strategy is going to help you to become the best leader possible. And then you tease into your first point. You see how you tease the audience, kind of like that tease on a television show before the commercial break? You've teased them and still made them curious as to what that first point is. So you want to have that enticing nature to your lead into your first point. So there you go. 5 hook tips to get your audience engaged during your introduction so that they listen for your entire presentation. You get them in the beginning and you get them throughout the presentation. Remember, the introduction is the most important because that's when your audience will decide, hey, I'm going to listen or I'm going to tune out and just be on my phone for this presentation. So remember these tips. If they were helpful to you, make sure you go to 52publicspeakingtips.com. Link is below. You'll find weekly tips there that are going to help you become twice the speaker you are today in just a year from now. Also, remember, if you like these videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out these other videos that are going to help you to become even better as a speaker and a communicator.